Hi. Wait, can you talk for a sec? Last night I got literally heinous. Literally heinous with Lily Maslia.
Hello and welcome to Literally Heinous. I sound terrible because I spent the entire weekend talking. I had my comedy show and it was so much fun. Every time I host a show, I literally put my whole life into it. I get so nervous and I don't know, but this is my first time having a co-host, and I co-hosted with my friend Jenna Safelli, who was on the podcast last week. And we had such a good time. It was such a fun show. The lineup was amazing, and the dancing was really fun. The venue was great. We made a little bit of money too, which was cool because I'm always just hoping to at least break even on my shows. And it was really, really fun. I'm definitely a creative lone wolf. I don't have a co-host for my podcast. I've only hosted comedy shows by myself, but it was really nice to have a co-host, just nice to bounce ideas off of. And it was really fun. I'm happy I did it. I do think that I am kind of closing the chapter on stand-up for now. And it's kind of been like this for a year, honestly. I don't know. I've seen the grind of the whole stand-up thing, and it is just not for me. I don't like the open mics. I don't even I don't know. It's the progression of coming up and stand up. It's you do every show that you possibly can, and you need to be going to mics every night to meet people, and then eventually you go on tour, you kind of put yourself on tour, and you go to all these crazy towns, and you book yourself at these comedy clubs. And I just have no interest in doing that. I don't even like stand up that much. I think I really just like to host parties and to host shows. And I just want to focus on my podcast. I spent the last preparing for my show, going to open mics for 2 weeks, and I don't know. I would rather be working on my podcast. I'd rather be interviewing people. And I really would love to do a live show at some point. That is a goal that I have. I went to an event last week. These two girl podcasters, they have a podcast called Party Gods. They're based in LA, and they came to New York and did a live show, a live podcast, and had guests and performers and a party. And I was like, oh my God, that is so fun. So live performing for me is always something that I'm going to love to do, whether it's the medium of a typical stand-up show, probably not, but I definitely I have it on my goals for next year to have some sort of Literally Heinous live and bring out some of the favorite guests that I've had and just do something like that, because I love to host a show. I love to host a party. So yeah, that's a goal that I have. It just sounds so much fun. But yeah, I am just, summer is hard. I feel I used to always love summer, and I do love summer, but I like the beginning of summer. June, electric vibes. July is fun. Every August I get kind of wonky, and I always call it dog days of summer or summertime sadness. I don't know. I just I feel I don't know. I mean, it's just so hot and it's murky, and maybe it's that kind of start of the school year vibes, even though I haven't been in school in forever, where I feel I need to get my shit together. But I've been having a lot of issues. I'm realizing that I'm a control freak. And I know that people are probably yeah, obviously. I'm I have control problems. And I think that's why I like to host my podcast by myself. I like to host shows by myself because I get to control every single aspect of it. And I first noticed my control issues when I was in Italy in April. And my friend Vivi and I, we were at the last part of our trip. So we got to this island called Ischia. And it was amazing. It was so much fun. And she booked the Airbnb. She booked this great Airbnb. But neither of us realized how small this island was, and how rugged and it's not walkable. It's very hilly. You can't walk around. You need a car. There's no public transit. There's no buses. And this Airbnb that she booked, while it was literally an amazing Airbnb with an amazing host, it was a little bit remote. And when we got there, we were oh, how do we get around? The island is built on volcanic ash. It kind of reminded me of Hawaii a little bit. And I got just so in my head and kind of had a mini anxiety attack. And we were like, oh, we can rent a scooter, like a Vespa, and scooter around. And I was already anxious about the scooter thing before we even went to Italy. I was like, I don't want to ride a Vespa. I don't want to ride on one. I don't want to drive one. And then this, like, so our Airbnb host arranges for a Vespa to come to our house that we can drive. And a full blown, like, motorcycle shows up. And Vivi and I are looking at this thing like, huh? And so she, like, he does like a little test with us. He's like, okay, like, do a little test. Let me make sure you can drive it well. And like Vivi, God bless her, like she couldn't even get the kickstand up. It was this giant fucking thing. And when we saw how like huge it was, even the guy, he took a look at us. He's like, I don't think you guys should ride this. He was like, this town, like people drive like crazy. Like there's basically one lane. Like it's dangerous. If you can't even get the kickstand up, you probably shouldn't be driving it. And then I just kind of got in my head and I was like, wait, how are we going to like get around? Like we're here for 3 days. How are we going to get to the beach? Like, what are we? And I just got weird. And then I like got in like because I felt like out of control. And it was like tense between me and Vivi for a second because I inadvertently made her feel bad about like booking the Airbnb when she like did a solid and found this really great Airbnb. And it's like, how are either of us like, I mean, I did research on the island, but like I didn't know that it would be like this. And it was kind of like weird for a minute. And then I was like mad at myself, just feeling like control, like out of control, out of my depths. And then we ended up like our Airbnb host, Giuseppe, he was amazing. He was like, how about you guys rent a smart car? And would you guys feel safer driving a car? And we were like, yeah. So then we ended up renting this little smart car and we named him Marco. And it was just like this tiny little like bug thing. And it was so cute. And like driving, we felt like totally fine. It was kind of scary at first, but then we got used to it. So we had this little smart car and it was perfect and everything worked out. And like, I apologized to Vivi and like we worked it out. And then we ended up taking like shrooms later and like had this really great shrooms trip, but I also like got in my head there. And then that was when I realized I was like, I think that I have some sort of like problem with like feeling out of control. So there's that. And then there's been like, so planning my wedding, I have realized a lot of my control issues for that. I always am like taking an active approach on everything. Like if there's a situation that's going on, like I want to handle it. I want to be the one to tell people, like I'm starting the group chat, like I'm explaining it. And it just kind of like, I don't really need to be doing that, especially when it comes to my fiance's family, like Jack's family. Now I'm starting, but like for a while, like I was the one like reaching out to his parents, like texting them stuff, like texting them ideas, like hounding Jack about like, have you talked to your parents yet? It's another control thing where I like to control the narrative. And I maybe in a way don't trust Jack to like explain a situation as perfectly, quote unquote, not that I even do it well, but like as perfectly as I would. So it's like, I want to control the situation. So my mom and her siblings are planning this like pre-wedding, kind of like a joint family, like bachelorette party a little bit. So it's like my family, Jack's family, we're hosting them in Kentucky, which is where my mom's family is from. And we're doing like this whole weekend, kind of like a mix wedding shower, but just like the families getting together. And we're going to the horse races. And I like went ahead and texted Jack's parents about it and texted like Jack's cousins about it. And it just ended up like creating more confusion. And I ended up like accidentally leaving his grandma out because I didn't think she would come. And then I got in my head. So then that's when I'm trying to control things. And like, I'm freaking out because like, I'm trying to control the narrative. And like, I'm trying to like, well, I don't want to look bad. And I'm like, if I would have just like let Jack do it and like let him explain it the way that he explains it, because it's like it's his family, like he talks to them a certain way, like they have their own like developed language and relationship, like why did I have to do that, you know what I mean? And like with now we're like deep in planning the rehearsal dinner, and like I have really had to practice a lot of restraint with like letting Jack plan it with his family. So we're doing kind of like the traditional route, like Jack's family doing the rehearsal dinner. And my mom and I found this one place and like we loved it. And then like Jack's family like did their own perusing and saw that it was like not, they didn't think that it was like enough, like bang for the buck, and we could have done something different. And I'm accepting that because they're planning it, it's their event, and I'm just kind of like practicing like letting go of my control issues. And I told Jack, I was like, okay, well, I did my research and researched like 15 places in Atlanta for our rehearsal dinner. And then this is the one that I picked. So then I handed him the reins and I was like, okay, now you can do your research and like you can go look for places that's more in line with what your parents thought. So now Jack is fully doing the rehearsal dinner and I'm just like fully hands off and I'm like actively catching myself in moments where I'm like, nope, I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to like let him plan it and like let him talk to his parents because I felt like a little insecure. Like this restaurant, the initial restaurant my mom and I found, it is a really nice restaurant and like we loved it. And then I got scared because I was like, oh, well, is Jack's family like, do they think that I'm like so fancy and like I'm over the top and we're like reckless with money? And I'm like spinning these narratives in my head. And then that's where my control issue comes in because I'm trying to like manage my reputation and I'm trying to like be understood because as humans, all we want is to be understood. Like that is when like a lot of issues happen and like consternation between people. It's because like someone feels misunderstood and everyone wants to feel seen. So I've just, I talked to Jack and like let him know that I'm like working on this issue. And then I told him about my insecurity that like I'm worried that his parents think that like we picked a restaurant that was too expensive and they're judging us. And he obviously is like, it's not the case. We're just, like now we're looking at restaurants too. So whatever, rehearsal dinner, it's going to be great no matter what, obviously. And I'm just like letting them control their own thing and like I'm controlling my own thing. It's also hard because like I'm a very like active person. So it's like when it was time to plan the rehearsal dinner, like I immediately got on it and did it. And I didn't feel that like excitement from them. So then I was just like, yeah, so control is weird and it's really hard to give it up. And it's so funny because like at my corporate job, like I never cared about anything. Like I'm not, like I say that I'm a controlling person, but I'm like not in every aspect of my life. Like when I worked in PR, my last job, I literally didn't care about anything. Like there was always drama about like, oh my God, she's taking all the work and like she's claiming credit for this and like he took my job and I was supposed to be working on it and now she's working on it. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like if someone wanted to take a job away from me at my corporate job, I was like, great, perfect. You got it. You'll kill it. Like, I don't care about that. It's more in like, I guess it's because I don't really care about my job. So it's like things that I do care about, which is my wedding and my shows and my podcast and like, with the Italy trip, it's like feeling safe and like feeling secure. It's like things like that I really want to control. But yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about friends lately and I've wanted to record this episode for a long time, but I've been nervous to talk about because it is kind of like a really personal topic. Talking about it to other people, like friend breakups, it's such a universal experience, especially for women. Straight men, you guys are kind of weird. Like I have heard of like a few straight male breakups, but like friend breakups, they're devastating and it's crushing. And like I've been through so many of them that it's sometimes you get in your head and you're like, oh my God, do I just keep like losing friends? Do I keep having these like fallouts with people all the time? And I do think there is sometimes you need to look inward. If you're like constantly having friend breakups and you always have like a new best friend, then like you should be doing some like pattern recognition and like analyzing like, okay, why did this friendship fallout happen? You should always be like looking at what you're responsible for because a lot of people don't do that. And sometimes you can beat yourself up and like you apologize way too much and like you take the blame and you grovel. But then also sometimes like maybe you are too guarded. Like maybe you really need to be like looking at patterns. And when I say friend breakups, my definition, a friend breakup is defined by an event or series of events that has caused tension for one or both parties and has created a rift. So a key thing for a friend breakup is there has to be like palpable like tension, something went wrong. A friend breakup is not just like getting less close over time because that happens all the time. Like first semester freshman year of college, I had like a best friend and like we were BFFs. Like I loved her. And then like once second semester happened, like I joined a sorority, she joined something else, and then like she studied abroad in May and we just kind of like got involved in other things and then like and then we just grew apart. There was no moment of like conflict or anything like that. So friend breakups like have to have some sort of like tense moment. So I have identified the 4 types of friend breakups. The will we, won't we. So the will we, won't we, this is like a back and forth friend breakup where like there's tension on both sides. It's not totally addressed. And sometimes like you're texting and it's fine and you hang out and it's fine. But then you'll also go like a few months without talking. And it's just like this weird, like tension can be felt on both sides. And this one is hard because it's like it doesn't get addressed. And not addressing something like I fucking get it. Like conflict and confrontation is really hard, and it is hard with friends, and it's hard because like the vast majority of like tension between friends, it's usually a series of small things. And I know how it feels to like let things build up because it's like, oh, what, you're going to confront a friend for like saying something kind of weird at a party, when it's kind of like because you run the risk of looking nitpicky, and no one wants to look nitpicky. No one wants to like whatever. So then you don't say anything over time. So that I also get it. I feel like it's pretty rare for like friend breakups. There was like one moment that like ruined everything. Like it happens, but I feel like most things are kind of like death by a thousand cuts and someone just not wanting to like say something. Because it's also like sometimes the things that people do that annoy you are personality quirks. And you can't really dog on someone for like who they are as a person. And I think that like everyone has a good heart. I really do believe that most people like don't want to get in a fight and don't want to hurt people, but it is hard. Okay, the next type is a conscious uncoupling. So Gwyneth Paltrow invented this term for her divorce with Chris Martin from Coldplay. And I'm sorry, it's such a good phrase. So conscious uncoupling, this is different from like, you know, moving in different directions and like both getting busy. Like this is like a mutual tip of the hat. Like this isn't working anymore. Let's just not address it. And like, let's just like kind of not be friends anymore. This is low-key the best type of friend breakup because like if you both are just kind of like on the outskirts of it, neither one of you wants to address it. And it kind of sounds like if this is happening, like you're both okay with just like kind of not being friends anymore. But the thing is for this part is like you have to like both be okay with it, and you have to both like have the same level of like affection for each other. You're both like, all right, let's just, you kind of stop texting, you stop calling. And the next one is the ghost. And the ghosting is really, really hard. And ghosting is when one person ghosts the other, no explanation. But the key is the other person like has to like want to continue the friendship. So that's like getting left on red, getting randomly blocked, no explanation. Ooh, that's a brutal one. That happened to me once, and it's hard when there's just like no explanation. And usually you can kind of like piece it together or like you can kind of figure it out, but it's definitely brutal. And then the last one is the confrontation that leads to a friend breakup. I would have to say this is the hardest one. And it's the hardest one because there's one person that's confronting the other. And confrontations, like, we should be able to confront our friends and to say things, but sometimes it leads in a breakup, which is hard, and it makes people not want to confront someone because it's like, okay, well, I do like this person. There are a few things that they do that bother me. Do I tell them and run the risk of ruining the friendship? I think a lot of times the reason people bottle stuff up is because they don't want to confront, because it's really hard and it's hard to have an uncomfortable conversation and it's hard to articulate your feelings. And it's also because like sometimes they lead to a friend breakup and it's really hard. And like, you know, you can be annoyed at someone and like not want to end the friendship. In a confrontation, when you are confronted, it's kind of nice because the ball's also in your court. So you are the one who gets to decide if you want to continue the friendship depending on the other person's message. So if you get a confrontational text, you can kind of tell by the language. If they're using language like, I love you so much, I know that you didn't mean it, next time do this. Like if they're using like a, you know, rooted in love, forward looking message, then that's your indication of like, okay, they still want to be friends, you know, let's work it out. If they're using language that is very like cut and dry, and then there's not really any indication of like, you know, moving forward or like next time we do this, like I love you so much. If it's kind of like cold, then it's like, okay, well, kind of seems like they don't want to be friends anymore. And if it is that one and you still want to be friends with them, like in your response, you just, ask them if they want to be friends, or like you can kind of gauge in the next coming weeks or coming months, like when you text them, what their response is. Because ultimately, like friendships are consent based. So like if you're texting them after that and, things just aren't the same, sometimes you just kind of got to let it be. And it's really hard. With confrontations, though, I used to be very pro like phone call in real life confrontation. And then in the last year, I've actually kind of switched to text. So I used to like really pride myself in being the kind of person that like, in person, like over the phone. And I always like had a script. When I was on my improv team, I had to kick someone off. And we had like this girl who was trained in like basically like conflict management for groups. So she came and like talked to like the e-board about how to like have these conversations, and said like with a confrontation, like you really just need to like say exactly what you need to say, and you have to like just go on a fucking monologue, and then you let them respond, because you don't want to like have to go back and forth. And so with like in real life and with phone confrontations, I do think I think it's good when you want to have a conversation, and like if something that you're confronting them about, like it's negotiable essentially. Like you want to hear their perspective. You want them to like explain themselves. Like you want to be able to like negotiate and compromise, cuz like these conversations are long as hell and just like intense. And then so the reason that sometimes I'm pro text now is that sometimes you really just need to say every single thing that you want to say, no interrupted, not misconstrued. Like you need to just like get it all out there and just like do it. So I know when my mom, so she and her siblings like used to have a lot of drama, but they're better now. And they were like big emailers, which I thought was kind of crazy. I'm like, how are you guys like doing an email? Like that's so immature, like that's so impersonal. And she just explained to me that like certain people like don't really do well with like having an open dialogue and heart to heart and like active listening. And that's not like anyone's fault. Like it's hard to do that. And so sometimes you really just need to like just get it all down, and they can have their time, they can take their space, they can read it, they can digest it, and they can come up with a thoughtful response. Because sometimes with in-person confrontations or over the phone confrontations is that you go down rabbit holes and you nitpick, and like you're also just like you're probably saying things that you don't really mean, because you don't really have time to like process what the other person is saying. And that is really valuable to be able to process, because when you're being confronted like over the phone or in person, like it kind of feels like your world is crashing down a little bit, and maybe you're not saying things that you mean. Maybe like you're immediately apologizing and you're groveling and you're crying and like just want it to be over, when really like you look back later and you're like, actually I'm not sorry for that thing, or like maybe they shouldn't have said that, or I wish I didn't react like that. So I don't know, I think there's like a time and place for each of them, but I am kind of like pro texting now sometimes. And I do think it's like honestly more respectful to the other person to just like let them kind of sit with that for a second, and like they can kind of process that in their own time. So like with the text, and especially if you know the person really well, you're like, oh well, I can't text them because they're at work and like I don't want to ruin their work day, or like, well now they're going out to do this thing and I don't want to like bother them. So there's never really a good time to do it too. So sometimes you kind of just have to do it. I am very pro like friendship reconnection, and something that's like helped me with friend breakups. So like I'm 28 now, and they used to be like devastating to me, but I've also seen, like I've been around long enough to know that like everyone comes back, especially like old friends. Like I had, falling out with like a friend, and we've been friends for so long, and I was really scared. I was like, oh my God, we've been friends for like this many years, like since we were so little, and like we're just never gonna talk again. And it's just like not true. Like people come back around, especially like the longer that you've had a friend, like they will come back around. And life has a funny way of like things working out. And also sometimes like you may never address what happened. And that's kind of okay. Like I used to think that like I was really big on closure and really big on like talking things over, but it's like sometimes time just like progresses and life fills out along the way, and like something bad happened in your friendship, but then so much life happens in between that like by the time you reconnect, like do you really care about like, resolving whatever issue that you had? Like, no, it's just kind of nice to have people back in your life again. Sometimes with tragedies too, like things pop back up or like, I feel like it's kind of a cliche, but in movies, like the main character's like parent dies and then like their best friend like shows up to the funeral and they work it out. And it's like kind of dark and like obviously you don't like hope something like that happens, but like true friends like that, especially when you've been friends for so long and maybe something happened, like they will be there for you. And sometimes like those like heavy moments and those big life moments are like what old friends are for. I think that like I have really loosened my grasp on my definition of friendship and like where I value my friends in my life. I used to think like, oh, we've been best friends since we were 5. Like she knows everything about me. Like that's my best friend. It's like, okay, well, sometimes like that's not the way it is because okay, yes, knew her the longest, but like that doesn't mean you guys are close now. Friendship is really based on convenience sometimes. And like sometimes your like best friends right now are the ones that are like live the closest to you, the ones that you see all the time, like the ones that you're currently vibing with. Like in your 20s and 30s, I feel like we're all about like our jobs and our hobbies and like our new little like personality quirks or whatever we're into at the time, that like we fill our friends with people that like solidify our viewpoint of the phase of life that we're currently in. So like a friend from childhood's probably not going to align with that because like your friend from childhood, they have their own life and they have their own like new career and new hobbies and new like worldviews and new things. So it's like, okay, they're doing their thing, I'm doing mine. We're not as close as we used to be, but like the love is still there. And when things like important things happen, like they will be there for you. I also think that like weddings kind of put friendships into perspective. And I don't think that it necessarily should. Like I used to feel a lot of like anxiety about like, oh my God, I can't believe this person was my best friend. And now it's like, I don't even know if I'm invited to their wedding. It kind of like doesn't really matter. I don't view my wedding as this like thing that is like written in stone. These are the people who matter to me. And if you're not invited, then you don't matter. It's not really how it is. Like people that are invited to your wedding are the people that you currently have like a close relationship with. You don't have to invite like your childhood friends. And if you're not invited to their wedding, like it's not a reflection on how they feel about you. It's just a reflection of like your current state of closeness. Because what are you going to like invite people based on like a tenure system? Like, oh, we've been friends for like, now she is on the tenure track to be invited to my wedding, even though we haven't talked in 5 years. Like, it's just not. And I think that like not getting invited to someone's wedding isn't really a slap in the face like people think that it is. If you have a friend breakup, that doesn't mean that you're like not a good person or that you're like constantly losing friends. Like it just, they do happen. And I feel like for women, they happen more often. And I will always say this because women have higher standards for their friends. Like men just like don't really have standards for their friends. I feel like they don't like hold each other accountable. They aren't like taking inventory. Like they just don't. And women are amazing. And like, I love being a woman and I love having female friends. And like, I am so like matriarchal. Like I think that women should rule the world. But it's hard. Like women have tough standards for their friends. We have expectations. Like there is a very strict like social contract. Like there's rules and it can be really hard. You have to decide like where you stand and like what your morals are. I've also been a big fan of like demoting people. Like I think friend breakups, it sounds really binary and it's like, do we have a confrontation or do we not? Like, am I ghosting you or am I not? Like, am I not inviting you to this stuff? Like, then I'm not inviting you to anything. And I think there's a nice art to just like demoting someone and you're not firing them. You're not like, but maybe you're inviting them to fewer things. You're not inviting them as much anymore. You're not asking them to hang out as much. And because you also have to lower your standards for these people. So if you feel like you're being consistently let down by a friend and they're not showing up for you in the way that you want, and you're thinking like, well, I did this for them and like I'm doing like X, Y, and Z, it sounds like if there's an imbalance, then you need to be lowering your standards and you kind of have to meet them where they are. I understand that it's hard because like if you are the type of person that's like a big gift giver or like you are just like a very like loving, out there, supportive friend. And then when you to not get that back, I know that it hurts. So sometimes you just gotta like meet them where they are, and it feels weird because it's like, well, I don't want to be a bad friend by, mirroring what they do for me, but like you're not being a bad friend. You're just doing exactly what they do. And then the other good thing is like when you demote someone like that or you lower your standard, you see like the other people in your life and then you can like promote someone. Every friend breakup that I had, like while it is devastating and while I kind of have to like re-look at the people in my life, I feel like there's always like someone that gets promoted. And so that's fun to see too. So I mean like we're all just like doing our best, and like people come and people go. Ariana Grande, she has a lyric that says losing friends left and right, but I just send them love and light, which like I love that song. And when I first heard that lyric, I felt so seen because I was like, why does it feel like I'm losing friends left and right? Oh, and then it just like makes you look internally, and it's like, am I one of those people that's like constantly having a friend fall out? But I also just think that like the older you get, it's like keep your circle small. Honestly, like you will get less hurt if you just like kind of have a small circle. Like I've got like a BFF, like a handful of best friends, like small handful. I have my fiance, I have my mom, I have my cousins, I have my aunt. Like I'm just kind of like I'm good for right now. Sometimes it's just nice to have like low maintenance friends that are just kind of like weekend friends. And I think that I get really attached in friendships, and I've always loved my girlfriends. Like I never had sisters, and I've just always like had a lot of friends, and I just like value them, and I share so much of my life and like everything. It's like things come back around, like you never know, like things will bring people back together always. If you have one like really good friend, that's really all you need. Don't lose yourself trying to like appease somebody, or like don't change yourself, and I think that it'll work out. But anyways, these are my thoughts. Like I am not an expert on this subject. This is just something that I've been like heavily thinking about, and like I feel like other people think about it all the time. So I was like, okay, well maybe if some of my experience can help someone. I don't know, but thank you guys so much for listening. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please leave me 5 stars. Follow me if you're on Spotify. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. It really helps to know that people care. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you later.